Hello everyone, this is Animeachi. Welcome back to a new what-if scenario. Today, we are exploring, what if Issei had a cursed sacred gear? The Curse of Beginning. The story opens in a quiet town on the outskirts of Kyoto, where the Hayadu family resides. Issei's parents, Hideki and Ayaka Hayadu, are ordinary humans with no ties to the supernatural. Hideki works as an architect, spending long hours drafting intricate designs for towering buildings, while Ayaka is a kindergarten teacher, nurturing young children with her warmth and kindness. On a stormy evening in late autumn, Ayaka goes into labor. The howling wind rattles the windows as lightning illuminates the dim hospital room. Hideki holds Ayaka's hand tightly, whispering words of encouragement while masking his worry. The storm feels almost alive, as if nature itself senses the significance of the child about to be born. When Issei comes into the world, his first cry echoes through the room, sharp and chilling, sending a shiver down the spine of everyone present. The storm outside intensifies for a brief moment before abruptly ceasing. The doctors exchange uneasy glances but say nothing, chalking it up to coincidence. A dark omen. As Ayaka cradles Issei, she notices something peculiar, a faint black mark, no larger than a coin, etched on the back of his left hand. At first, the parents think it's a birthmark, but when Ayaka touches it, a cold sensation runs through her fingers, and a whisper, not quite a voice, seems to echo in her mind. He carries a burden not of this world. Hideki laughs nervously, dismissing it as fatigue playing tricks on her mind. But Ayaka cannot shake the feeling that something is wrong. Unseen forces at work. As Issei grows, the mark begins to fade, and life in the Hayadu household seems normal, for a time. However, strange incidents begin occurring around the toddler. Toys break on their own, shadows flicker unnaturally, and pets in the neighborhood grow uneasy in his presence. By the time Issei turns 3, Ayaka decides to seek answers. She takes Issei to a shrine nestled deep in the forest, where a reclusive priest, known only as Shinjiro, resides. The priest examines the boy carefully and grows pale upon seeing the faded mark. He reveals that it is no ordinary birthmark but the seal of a cursed sacred gear, a relic of immense power that binds both blessings and curses to its wielder. It's a tool of destruction, Shinjiro warns. If left unchecked, it will not only endanger your son but could bring ruin to those around him. The seal suppresses its power for now, but the day it awakens, his voice trails off, leaving Ayaka trembling. A heavy decision. Hideki and Ayaka debate what to do. They love their son deeply and refuse to see him as a danger. Ultimately, they decide to raise Issei as normally as possible, keeping the knowledge of the sacred gear from him. However, they vow to monitor him closely and ensure that he never falls into despair, fearing that negative emotions could trigger the curse. The story then skips forward to Issei's teenage years. He is an average boy, or so he believes, dreaming of girls, spending time with his friends, and navigating the awkwardness of high school. The seal remains dormant, and the cursed sacred gear lies in wait, unseen and forgotten by all but the faint whispers in the darkest corners of Issei's mind. Foreshadowing the awakening. One night, while walking home from school, Issei hears a voice calling his name. He turns but sees no one. The shadows around him seem to grow longer, almost reaching out to him. The mark on his hand, long since invisible, begins to burn faintly, and the whisper he heard at birth returns, clearer now. Your time draws near, child of ruin. Will you embrace me, or fall to me? Confused and shaken, Issei brushes it off as his imagination, unaware that his life is about to change forever. Morning at Kuo Academy begins like any other day. Issei Hayadu rushes down the street with toast in his mouth, his bag swinging wildly behind him. He barely makes it through the gates before they close, grinning triumphantly at his small victory. In class, Issei sits in the back row with his 2 best friends, Matsuda and Motohama, better known as the perverted trio. They spend most of the day scheming ways to peek at girls, their antics earning them scornful glares from their female classmates. Issei, the self-proclaimed harem king in training, dreams of one day being surrounded by beautiful girls. Their latest plan involves sneaking into the girls' locker room during lunch. Issei and his friends crouch behind a row of bushes near the gym, whispering excitedly about their strategy. But as they argue over who should go in first, disaster strikes. A teacher catches them mid-scheme and drags them back to the classroom by their ears. The humiliation is worth it to Issei, who can't help but smile at the thought of his dream. However, amidst the laughter and reprimands, he feels an odd sensation, a flicker of coldness brushing against the back of his mind. For a brief moment, his vision blurs, and he sees faint black tendrils creeping along the edges of his sight. When he blinks, the tendrils are gone. Shaking his head, Issei convinces himself it's nothing. A glimpse of the unknown. After school, the trio heads to their usual hangout spot, a small cafe where they talk about their next adventure while ogling the waitresses. Matsuda and Motohama argue about the best seats for maximum view, but Issei finds himself zoning out. His left hand feels warm, almost as if the faded mark is trying to resurface. The sensation worsens as they leave the cafe. Walking home alone, Issei notices the shadows around him seem darker, more alive. His steps quicken, and he clutches his bag tightly, the faint whispers from before returning. This time, they form coherent words. Do you truly seek the life you dream of? Or is it an illusion masking your fate? Issei freezes in the middle of the street, his breath catching. The voice is neither male nor female, resonating deep within him. He spins around, but the street is empty. Maybe I need more sleep, he mutters, forcing a laugh. But as he continues walking, the feeling of being watched lingers. The ticking clock. At home, Issei collapses onto his bed, trying to shake off the unease. His parents call him down for dinner, and their cheerful chatter eases his mind. Watching them laugh over silly jokes, Issei can't imagine anything disrupting their peaceful life. Yet in the depths of his mind, the cursed sacred gear stirs, feeding off his growing confusion and desire. It waits, patient but hungry, knowing its time will come. As the episode ends, Issei dreams of a dark figure standing in an endless void. The figure speaks, its voice echoing like 1,000 whispers. Soon, the choice will be yours. Embrace me, or suffer the price of denial. The mark on his hand glows faintly in the darkness, a silent promise of the chaos to come. It's another ordinary day at Kuo Academy. Issei, Matsuda, and Motohama are up to their usual antics, scheming in the courtyard about ways to win over the hearts of their classmates. While the trio debates their newest plan, Issei's attention is suddenly drawn to the school gate. A girl stands there, her long black hair flowing in the gentle breeze. Her beauty is striking, and she seems out of place, like a figure from a dream. She's dressed in Kuo Academy's uniform, but Issei doesn't recognize her. As if sensing his gaze, the girl locks eyes with him. A soft smile spreads across her face, and she begins walking toward him. Issei's heart skips a beat as she stops just a few feet away. "Hayadu Issei?" she asks, her voice as sweet as honey. Issei stammers, his cheeks turning red. "Why yeah, that's me. Do I know you?" She tilts her head, her smile never faltering. "Not yet. My name is Yuma Amano. I've been wanting to talk to you." Matsuda and Motohama exchange shocked glances, their jaws dropping. "Issei, who is she?" Matsuda whispers harshly. I don't know." Issei hisses back, completely flustered. Yuma giggles, and Issei feels like his heart might explode. "Would you like to go out with me sometime?" she asks, her tone light and playful. The world seems to stop as Issei processes her words. A beautiful girl is asking him out. Him, Issei Hayadu. For a moment, he wonders if he's dreaming, but the expectant look in her eyes feels too real. Yes, he blurts out before he can overthink it. I mean, yes, I'd love to. Yuma beams, and Issei feels like the luckiest guy in the world. Great. Let's meet at the park this weekend, okay? She waves goodbye and walks away, leaving Issei standing there in stunned silence. Matsuda and Motohama immediately tackle him, bombarding him with questions and complaints about his unbelievable luck. A growing unease. As the day goes on, Issei can't stop thinking about Yuma. Her smile, her voice, everything about her seems perfect. Yet, in the back of his mind, that familiar whisper stirs again. Beware the mask of beauty, for it often hides the face of death. Issei shakes his head, trying to dismiss the ominous thought. I'm just nervous, he mutters to himself. Later that night, he dreams of Yuma standing in the same endless void as before. This time, she isn't smiling. Her eyes are cold, and dark wings unfurl behind her as she reaches out to him. Issei wakes with a start, his heart pounding. He rubs his hand, the faint mark still invisible but burning slightly beneath his skin. What's happening to me? He whispers, staring at the ceiling. It ends with Yuma standing under a street lamp, her shadow stretching unnaturally long behind her. She gazes at a photo of Issei, her expression unreadable. Soon, she murmurs, her voice carrying an edge that sends a chill down the spine. It's Saturday afternoon, and Issei Hayadu is on cloud 9. Dressed in his best, and only, semi-decent outfit, he waits nervously at the park's entrance for Yuma Amano. The spring air is warm, and the cherry blossoms sway gently in the breeze, creating the perfect romantic setting. She's really coming, right? Issei mutters, fidgeting with his phone. He checks the time, still a few minutes early. Hayadu-kun. Issei turns around, and his heart skips a beat. Yuma waves as she approaches, her radiant smile making him forget how to breathe. She's dressed in a simple yet elegant sundress, and her carefree demeanor immediately puts him at ease. You look great, Yuma says with a giggle, making Issei blush furiously. You too, he blurts out, mentally kicking himself for being so awkward. The date begins, and everything feels perfect. They stroll through the park, stopping to admire the flowers and watch kids play in the fountain. Yuma laughs at Issei's bad jokes, and for the first time, he feels like someone genuinely likes him for who he is. Hayadu-kun, thank you for spending time with me, Yuma says as they sit on a bench. Her tone is softer now, almost melancholic. Of course. Issei replies, his chest swelling with pride. This has been the best day of my life. Yuma looks at him, her eyes unreadable. I'm glad to hear that. The shift. As the sun begins to set, the mood changes. Yuma takes Issei's hand and leads him to a more secluded part of the park. Her grip is firm, and her smile has faded. Yuma-chan, is everything okay? Issei asks, sensing the shift in her demeanor. She stops in the middle of a clearing and turns to face him. Her expression is no longer warm but eerily calm. Hayadu-kun, she begins, her voice devoid of the sweetness from before. There's something I need to tell you. Issei's heart races. Is this a confession? Is she about to say she loves him? I'm sorry, Yuma says, her gaze hardening. But I need you to die. Before Issei can react, dark, feathered wings erupt from her back, and her sundress transforms into a revealing black outfit adorned with intricate designs. Her previously soft features now exude a cold, predatory aura. Wayuma? Issei stammers, stumbling backward. What's happening? She smirks, raising her hand. A glowing spear of light materializes in her grasp, its energy crackling ominously. My name isn't Yuma. It's Rainair. And you, Hayadu Issei, are just an unfortunate stepping stone in my mission. The Awakening. Rainier hurls the spear with deadly precision. Time seems to slow as Issei watches it hurtle toward him, his life flashing before his eyes. But just as the spear is about to pierce his chest, something within him stirs. The mark on his hand ignites with an intense, dark glow, and a surge of energy explodes outward, knocking Rainier back. Issei collapses to the ground, clutching his hand as an overwhelming pain spreads through his body. From the depths of his mind, the familiar whisper grows louder. Awaken, bearer of chaos. Your time has come. Issei screams as the mark fully manifests, dark tendrils spiraling up his arm and across his chest. His eyes glow faintly, and for a moment, he feels an alien power coursing through him, terrifying yet exhilarating. Rainier stares at him in shock, her confidence faltering. What are you?" she demands, her voice trembling. Issei doesn't answer. He's too consumed by the searing pain and the echoing whispers in his mind. But as he struggles to stay conscious, one thing becomes clear: his life will never be the same. The episode ends with Rainier retreating into the shadows, her expression a mix of fear and curiosity. Issei lies on the ground, the mark on his hand pulsing faintly as the whispers fade into silence. The park is silent, save for the rustling of leaves in the wind. Issei lies motionless on the ground, struggling to regain his breath. His body feels like it's been set ablaze, the power coursing through him too overwhelming to control. The mark on his hand continues to glow faintly, as if alive. He reaches up, trembling, to touch it, but as his fingers make contact, a sharp pain shoots through his arm. Issei grits his teeth, forcing himself to sit up. What the hell is happening to me?" he whispers, his voice hoarse. For a brief moment, the world around him blurs, and his vision goes dark. In his mind, he hears the voice again, a low and powerful tone that resonates deep within his soul. "You are mine now, Hayudu Issei. The cursed sacred gear has chosen you. You are the vessel of destruction, the harbinger of doom. Embrace your fate." Issei's chest tightens as fear takes hold of him. "No. I don't want this," he shouts, shaking his head violently. I'm just a normal guy." But the voice only laughs, a cold and hollow sound that echoes in the recesses of his mind. "Normal? You are far from normal. You will soon see just how different you truly are." Suddenly, the voice fades, leaving Issei panting, his hands clenched into fists. He feels a cold sweat trickling down his back as he stares at the ground in front of him. A face from the past. As Issei tries to make sense of everything, a voice calls out from behind him. "Issei." He turns quickly, only to be met with the sight of someone unexpected, Rias Gremory. She stands a few feet away, her crimson hair flowing around her like a fire in the wind. She looks concerned, her expression softer than he's ever seen it. "Rias." Issei breathes, still dazed. He's seen her around school, but they've never really spoken. He stumbles to his feet, his legs shaky. Rias takes a step forward, her gaze sharp yet gentle. "You're not yourself, Issei. What happened here?" Before Issei can respond, Rainier appears, her wings spread wide and her eyes full of malice. She glares at Rias with a sneer. "This doesn't concern you, Gremory," Rainier hisses. Rias doesn't flinch. Instead, she steps between Issei and Rainier, her voice firm. "I think it does. You've caused enough damage already, Rainier. Now leave." Rainier growls, raising her hand as if to strike, but before she can act, Issei suddenly feels a surge of power inside him, wild and uncontrollable. Without thinking, he steps forward, his hand raised in a defensive gesture. "Stay away from her," he yells. To his surprise, a burst of dark energy erupts from his body, sending Rainier crashing backward into a nearby tree. The force of the blast shakes the ground, and Issei watches in horror as the shadows around him seem to pulse and writhe like living things. Rainier groans, slowly rising to her feet. You've awakened it, haven't you? She snarls, her eyes wide with both fear and admiration. Rias's expression hardens. So, this is what it was all about. You were after his sacred gear, weren't you? Rainier nods slowly, her lips curling into a sinister smile. That's right. The cursed sacred gear is a powerful tool, and it has chosen Hayadu Issei to be its new master. I was sent to claim him, but it seems he's more than I expected. Issei looks at his hands, the dark tendrils swirling faintly around them. He tries to suppress the rising terror, but it's too much. I didn't ask for any of this, he screams, his voice shaking. Rias steps closer, her tone soft but firm. I know you didn't, Issei. But now you have a choice. You can either let this power consume you, or you can learn to control it. But I won't let you face this alone. The choice. Rainier glares at them both, but she knows her fight isn't with Rias, not now. With a last venomous look, she spreads her wings and vanishes into the shadows. Issei stands there, his heart pounding in his chest. He feels like he's been thrown into a world he doesn't understand, and the weight of it all threatens to crush him. Rias places a hand on his shoulder, her touch warm and reassuring. You're not alone, Issei. You're stronger than you realize. But the path ahead won't be easy. Issei nods slowly, the fear still coursing through his veins. What do I do now? Rias smiles softly. You start by learning to control this power, and perhaps understanding who you really are. I think this is a good stopping point. If you enjoyed What If Issei Had a Cursed Sacred Gear, please subscribe and share it with a friend who enjoys What If scenarios.